So I want to begin with just recognizing that it's okay to not be okay. It is okay to be deeply wounded. It is okay to be highly anxious, to be genuinely afraid. It is okay to be angry and grieving. It is okay to want to hit and hurt something just to let out the feeling. Not that you need my permission, but it's worth saying every so often it's okay to not be okay. So much is broken. So much is disrupted, so much is shifted, and it's not really clear how things might get better. Any given week is a new adventure in the broken. This week, there is deep anxiety that people will be hungry soon because the loss of SNAP benefits. The military is trying to figure out how to pay the people. We have the closure of national parks or the harm done when those parks are staffed with too few people to manage them safely. We have the loss of historic places and public access, such as with the destruction of the East Wing of the White House. To me, just that feels like the elimination of beauty and history and purpose for the sake of ego and grasping at power. And this weekend alone, Chicago still suffers. Halloween block party was ruined when ICE launched tear gas into the neighborhood. Again and again, cruelty is the point. And we each have our own personal concerns. We might show up, come as you are, but most of the time it's also, I'm looking okay, aren't I? Right? Whatever might be the stress below, the job, the health, the family, because sometimes, so many times, it's just hard to say it out loud. There is so much, there is too much. I have this image of us kind of vibrating so hard with all of it that we just can't do anything but stand still. I offer no great intellectual exposition on this moment. What I offer instead is permission to slow down, to slow down in a way that some of us don't really have beyond this hour, I recognize. I want to offer an additional note for those of us who have particular stresses, PTSD, complex PTSD, anxiety, one or more of the many mental health concerns that can amplify our experience of suffering. Please engage only if it works for you. So then there is this concept that Kate Landis talked about and the Buddhists talk about, which is compassion. It is, in fact, one of our greatest tools. It is, when understood and deployed, can be a superpower. It can be a way to hold all the big feelings that emerge with us, that emerge within us, that we experience around us, a way to have an avenue to address the nature of suffering that is the human condition. We keep being called into love, called into compassion, and boy, it takes a lot of practice. But I appreciate this understanding of compassion. For me, it's a manifestation of radical love. This is why it's a superpower. This is why it has potential. And It's also a practice, it's also its own challenge. It's also its own, what does this mean? We are called into care, we are called into being with one another. How? I think sometimes we can be instructed in caring for one another that ends up being translated as we absorb somebody else's pain and it's harder on us as well. But that's not the point. We're not trying to be this vehicle for taking pain out of other people and into ourselves. That's not quite it. Because compassion is more about perceiving the suffering and recognizing it and letting it flow through, not be attached to it. From Krishna Kumar, compassion is what happens when you encounter another person's suffering. Go beyond your feelings of empathy and altruism and step forward to help alleviate that suffering. So, beyond empathy or altruism, and step forward to help ease the suffering. Rabbi Esther Adler, she says, there is a hierarchy of responses when we encounter suffering. Pity, she says, is I see your pain. Sympathy says, I understand your pain. Empathy says, I feel your pain. Compassion says, I am with you in your pain and I will help. Compassion says, I am with you in your pain and I will help. So the power in compassion is offering to assist, not to fix, not to take away. It's not magic either, as much as that can be tempting. Would that we had pain-free spells, right? In an interview with the Buddhist nun, Jen Denmo, she says, we often misidentify compassion to be just looking at suffering. But from the Buddhist perspective, that's really just the start of compassion. Because compassion is actually a wish for others to be free from suffering or to wish to protect them from suffering. So I think, she says, when people feel overwhelmed, it's because they're just looking at the suffering, they're just seeing it, but they're not actually taking that next step to think about others' potential freedom from it. What does freedom from suffering look like? I think if we take that next step, it's a little bit easier not to feel that compassion is a depressing state of mind or that it's not so overwhelming. I really appreciate Buddhist practice here about being with someone in pain, breathing with someone as they're experiencing suffering, not taking it on, but being profoundly present to what is happening. Pema Chodron, another Buddhist teacher, talks about practice, the practice of Tonglen. It can be done for those who are ill, those who are dying or have died, who are in pain of any kind. It can be done as a full meditation practice or right on the spot in any moment. If we are walking and see someone's pain, we can breathe in that person's pain and send relief to them. She said, usually when we see someone suffering, their pain brings up our fear or anger. It brings up our resistance or confusion. So we can do what's called Tonglen for the people just like ourselves, all who wish to be compassionate and are afraid, who wish to be brave and are fearful. So we get to recognize our own struggle. So this is not kind of pushing something aside. We get to recognize our own kind of feelings and the mix thereof, acknowledge them. Love the Buddhist practice for saying, yes, we're going to acknowledge the feelings, and then we let that flow and become part of the practice in compassion. Our own brokenness, our own struggle gets to be channeled into attention and care. In addition to the Buddhist practice, I appreciate ecologist, the late Joanna Macy. She was one who took very deep looks at the struggles of the world, deep concern over our climate, and still tried to offer us guidance and leadership. And she says, compassion boils down to not being afraid of the suffering of the world or yourself. It involves being open to what you felt, what you're feeling about that suffering, the grief and the rage and the anger and the overwhelm, and brave enough to experience it. You can't heal something you won't go near. She says compassion is what impels you to act for the sake of the larger whole. Or to put more accurately, it is the whole acting through you. It is the whole acting through you. Now, I'm going to disagree with Joanna Macy just a bit here, not being afraid of suffering. I think a little fear can be a sign that you take it seriously, that we respect the scope and the complexity of what is happening, that we have evolutionary reasons for fear. It's useful. In fact, a little fear can allow us to know the truth about what is before us. A little fear can be part of the process for acknowledgement and comprehension that we do not underestimate what is happening. And a small wow tinged with a little fear, a little awe, a little whoa, followed by a choice to move toward that concern, that is a practice of compassion. We give ourselves permission to get over being held back by being afraid, but let love be stronger and to lean in. What I appreciate especially is Joanna Macy's wisdom at the end of her thought that compassion is what compels you to act for the sake of the larger whole, or to put more accurately, it is the whole acting through you. The whole acting through you. Have you had that kind of experience? In a moment of deep concern or awareness or amazement or a deep challenge, a crisis before you, feeling that something has shown up and has gone completely through and guides you into the next moment. I know one of the images I have from that is from the Tai Chi practice. I'm not going to get the forms right. I'm just going to let you know. But that one where you gather the energy right in the middle and are able to push that forward. And let that move you when you don't quite know what you're doing. Let me move you into care, into action, into response. I couldn't name a particular moment when I've had that, but I know I have. And I didn't quite know what I was doing, and yet I was able to be of service to another person, able to be of service to another child. It's the best part. One of the drop down moments I'll describe in ministry when I've listened enough and then I get out of my own way and then we pay attention to what's happening. And that attention by itself can ease the pain, to ease the hurt. It certainly has come up in conversations about memorial services and planning in response to death and so much more. So, in this moment of such brokenness, of such struggle, of such pain, I'm just wanting to allow the space to feel the complexity of that and maybe some paths forward. And especially if one can help with the mind and the body and the spirit, the wholeness of each of us as we are. And in that, I want you to, if you would join me for a little bit of an exercise here. I want to invite us to take this space and this room and this moment to be present, to locate ourselves internally, externally, and more. On the rare moments when I sit in the pews during the service, I usually am over to one side or the other, because that way I can take in not just the chancel and the pulpit, but I can take in the entirety of the congregation, whoever is in the room, because I want to be with the entirety of who is here. So I invite us to pay attention. If you haven't done that before, if partially when you come into the sanctuary, you're like, I'm just sitting here and I'm doing the service and I hope to talk and have some coffee after. It's okay. But in this moment, I'm going to invite us to pay attention to who is around us in the pew with you, in the next, or in the next, to simply be aware. And let the sense of that larger circle, who is in the room, kind of let that expand a little. Here in the church, who is in the building? We have children, people in the foyer, we have people in fellowship hall, we have children down the hall, children and youth and adults. Many people alive in all of our human imperfections and fantasticness. We can expand to say who are in the houses nearby, who are in the neighborhoods. Sharon Woods across the street, Proctor Place on the next block, north, south, east, west. Who's in the city, a county across the river. To be present to who are the people along the highways down to St. Louis, all the way up to Chicago, wider and farther, in the river, in the woods, in the fields, and on the prairie. The circle expands and grows in our hearts. It is already there and present, and now we get to know it again. Go into the earth, up to the sky and beyond. Be amazed by the vastness that is around us. So much that is broken and torn, so much that is connected and found, so much that is being made and remade, so much that is beyond our single human mind and heart, but we are in the midst of it. A sense of intuition and heart is part of what powers us. Practice of compassion in a broken world is not without fear or all the feelings, not without our own hurt, but the practice is with witness, with the wish to release ourselves and others from suffering, making just the smallest bit of difference, starting somewhere, and maybe even here. to breathe, pause, and push into that connection and that care out into the world, into the whole, as Joanne at Macy tells us. That would be the work that we are called to do as humans, merely being. I close with a brief note from my colleague, the Reverend A.J. Van Tyne. Spirit of life and regeneration, help us to feel the wisdom in our bodies, even with so much going wrong. Our hearts beat with gratitude for blessings, for beauty and joy stubbornly breaking through, for the compassionate companionship of community of which welcomes all that we bring with us in these times and doesn't ask us to be smaller than we really are. For solidarity and mutual aid for the trees and the wind and the stars, their cosmic witness soothing our animal souls, reminding us of the deep impermanence and the deep interconnectedness of all things. Spirit of transformation, may our hearts break open and stretch out to join with the hearts of others who yearn for a freer world. Each heart a building block of a better society, each life lived for hope and resistance and a prayer for a nobler world. Maybe go forward, practice the care, knowing that we struggle and are in pain. All of this is all of us making this work together in our larger hope, in our larger love. So may it be.